Yes, welcome again. We were supposed to do this last week, but the system failed. So we will play approximately 5 or 6 videos. And then just to see, we will play probably 3 videos from Chicago and 3 videos from Nigeria. And then after that, um, you'll go back and then prepare for Wednesday, which will be the last day of this program. So on Wednesday, what we are going to do is we'll invite one person from each group, 6 students from Nigeria and 6 students from Chicago. And then they will briefly, in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, in 3 minutes each, they will summarize the differences and similarities between the two countries. So I do not expect you to put together a formal presentation. Meet among yourselves. Nigerian students, meet among yourselves within your group, and then articulate a few similarities and differences that you will share on Wednesday. And the DePaul students should do the same thing. So you just have a few points, jot them down, and then appoint one person to speak for the group on Wednesday. So, and then the DePaul students, after that activity on Wednesday, then I posted the final exam questions, and the DePaul students will work within their own groups to answer the final exam questions. So they can record the final exam questions, the answers as a PowerPoint presentation. They can record via Zoom and then submit that to D2L. Or they can decide to just create a Word document and then include citations, quotes from specific interviews that were posted from Nigeria and then from the United States to show the similarities and differences, and then submit that as a Word document. And then have the names of the peers from the group on the document. And then, as we agreed, have the names of those who participated on the document. I sent an email to the DePaul students last week, and then I also sent them, I sent an email that explained the entire process. So I want to thank everyone for coming back today, and then for being very patient. And then after Wednesday, we are going to collect the names of students from Nigeria who participated in the program so that we can develop their certificates. So the person who is coordinating, Ms. Okang, who is working with Nigerian students, will send me the names of those who participated from Nigeria. And then we will use those names to create the certificates that they will receive in July. So I'll start now with the first video.
Okay, hello, professor and class. This is Andrew Coleman doing my interview here. Well, just take your time with it. We're gonna go through a couple questions and let's see what we're gonna get. What we're gonna get. Okay, so for everybody, for the professor, for the class, can you please introduce yourself and where you live, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Pittman, and I live in Calumet City, Illinois, which is in the suburbs of Chicago.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me, Ms. Pittman.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. So let me talk to you for a minute. So what do you think about climate change? Like, what changes have you seen in climate? You being here in Chicago, well, basically Chicago, what climate changes have you seen over the years? I mean, I know they call it the Windy City, so I'm pretty sure that a lot of reasons because of this cold or whatever. But what have you noticed has changed from your perspective?
Well, for example, I noticed like with winter, like the first thing that pops in people's minds are like snow on the ground, a lot of rain, sleet, and hail. But I noticed lately, like with the winters, it hasn't really snowed as much as it used to. Like, it used to be a whole bunch of snow on the ground, like at least 6 inches or more. But I noticed now, even if it'll snow like here and there, it wouldn't be like heavy blizzard or anything. It'll probably be little flurries in the sky, and it won't stick to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed like with the winter as well, it's like they've been warmer like than usual. Like instead of being like, for example, like let's say to the 30s, like down to the negatives, now it's like 60 degrees or sometimes 70 or 80 degrees.
Okay.
It's like it's gotten a lot more warmer over the
Okay.
past few years.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Like, you have you understand about any animals, insects, or anything of that nature?
Well, a few years ago, my grandma used to live next door. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
I always noticed that it used to always be a bunny outside every time I go out to take the trash. But it's like, now you look around, it's like, where are the bunnies? There's no bunnies like around anymore. The same thing with the pigeons. Like, people have told me they are still around, but it's like, I don't really see any. Like when I go outside to like, same thing when I said, like with the bunnies. Like some days when I go outside and take the trash out for my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes used to be a whole bunch of pigeons in front of the apartment, and I noticed like every like a morning at the crack of dawn, it will always be like a pigeon like sit at the air conditioner, like literally on top of the air conditioner. Like they would be everywhere, but it's like now you rarely hear of them. It's kind of like just
Non-existent.
vanish on the face of earth or something.
Okay, I got that. Okay. Yeah, because I noticed that a lot too. I noticed a lot of things are not around no more. Just like bees and lightning bugs. You remember, people used to collect light bugs back in the day in the jars that make light. Now all that stuff gone. I mean, like it's getting crazy. So now, as far as like your community, your neighborhood, your city, whatever you are, how you think it's gonna be, like the future's gonna be with these climate changes that you described?
Well, for starters, I want to start off like with the plants.
Mhm.
Like, say for example, like with it being like less rain, like plants need the water and the rain to grow. Without the rain, like I guess coming down and whatnot, how there wouldn't be any trees, there wouldn't be any shrubs, like the grass wouldn't be able to grow or anything like that. And another thing as well, like say with all these animals going missing, like say with the cows, like if there's no cows around, like how are we gonna be able to eat meat? Like how are we gonna have food in order to survive? Like what are we going to survive on?
Ooh, good point. Because I know I love me a good cheeseburger. And if there's no more animals, how I'm gonna get my burger?
Yes, like we're not gonna have anything to survive off of.
Well, I totally feel you on that. I mean, man, it's kind of scary when you think about it, man. Speaking of scary, I know I'm scared for the future, but well, in reference to climate change, I mean, how do you feel about this? Are you frustrated, mad, worried, fearful? I mean, because a lot of things you described, it seems kind of like I'm kind of scared. So I mean, that's just me. But what about you? What you think?
Well, I'm a mixture of two emotions. Like part of me is happy because I'm not too much of a fan of like, it being cold outside, in the winter, rather, just like go out and, breathe in the fresh air and the sun beaming down on me. Like I like that type of thing. But it's like in the same sense, like you can't help like, to question the back of your mind, like, okay, what's causing, all of this to happen? It's like it's just a big question mark like above my head with that. But honestly, who wouldn't be afraid of the unknown? I know it's a lot of people is afraid of the unknown because in the future you never know what to expect.
Yeah. The future is very unknown, as you said.
Yeah.
So,
Anything can happen.
anything can happen. So,
Anything can happen.
to wrap things up, I mean, I just want to ask you one last question. So, what kind of, in terms of like interaction, I mean, relationships between humans, animals, or humans and plants, or natural world, whatever you think, how do you think that's gonna shape out in your perspective? I mean, do you think I know we to me, like, we all need each other. We all depend on each other for something. So, I mean, if there's no animals, like you said, how we gonna eat?
Yeah.
Or how you gonna prosper?
And another thing I wanted to mention as well, I'm glad you said that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if I said this already, but with the bees, with them carrying honey, and they also like, you ever seen like a bee like laying on top of the plants and like, they produce pollen, into the plants. Without the bees around, a lot of these things wouldn't exist. It's like, in a way, the bees kind of help shape the world. Without the bees, how these plants are gonna survive, like the food, the food will almost be non-existent. We wouldn't have anything to survive off on. So it's like, the world would just be black and white.
Or non-existent. Everything, if we are on one hand like the other. So the animals depend on us, we depend on the animals. And
it's like we help each other out.
We help each other out. You know what, Ms. Pittman, this has been a great interview. I'm glad I got a little feedback. I mean, I see similar similarities, how I feel versus how you feel, and I appreciate your time and effort in climate change.
I appreciate you for having me.
All right.
So we will play another one now. One more from the United States. And then we will play two from Nigeria.
All right. Thanks for joining me today, guys. My name's Eve. This is my sister, Natasha, and we live in Lake County. So today I'm going to be interviewing Tasha on how climate change has impacted her life. So please introduce us and just describe your environment.
So in my environment, I've seen a really big fluctuation in temperature in the winter and in the summer. So personally, where I work, it's Woodstock, and depending on the day is when one side of the street gets to water their yard and the other side gets to water their yard. So there's a really big concern around drought in the community, especially since it's a farming community.
So you're saying they're impacting our crops and our food?
Yeah, climate change definitely impacts the crops and how you need to treat the soil around you and how much work you're putting into the food that's produced and given to the public.
Yeah, that's a great point there, Tasha. How do you feel about the Chain of Lakes with climate change?
So with the Chain of Lakes, I'm seeing like a very large change in water. So a lot of the infrastructures and community around the water, depending on what's going on, the water rises and destroys homes, or we are given a drought and we can't use our boats and people pay a lot of money.
Yeah, they do. The community gets pretty upset when they're told us we're not allowed to go in the lake, but it's an impact of our climate and like our carbon footprint.
Along with the animals.
Yeah.
I see a lot of deer swimming across the chain. That's not okay.
Yeah.
Their homes are being flooded.
Yeah.
Or in a drought.
Yeah, great point. Great point. How do you imagine your community and your family's future affected by climate change?
Around here, I feel like my family, just generations from now, are going to have a very hard time taking care of themselves. I think we're also going to be put on a regulation of how much water we can consume inside of our homes. Yeah. And that is scary.
Yeah, that makes you feel scared and worried, right?
I'm very scared for what my family is going to have in the future.
Definitely. So how would you describe your emotional response to climate change?
It's very irritating for me because personally with climate change, I have a very bad time in the winter. I have seasonal depression. And so with the winter, I get extremely upset. And then in the summer, I'm super manic. And that's not good for me or the people around me.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. How do you imagine your future personally with climate change?
I don't think I'll be willing to have children in the future because I don't want them to suffer the way that I am already suffering, even though it might not be a big thing to a lot of people. When you see something every day and you see people upset every day about how fast the community is changing because of rules that need to be put in place because of what the world can and can't support, it causes a lot of stress on some people.
Awesome, yes, a great point. What kind of world would you like to see in terms of our relationship with different groups of human? What kind of change would you like to see in our environment? More awareness, maybe?
I would love to see our community come together and create a food pantry. Personally, I've seen a lot of other townships do it, and it has a really, really great outcome for people that cannot support themselves, and to have other people in the community who can support themselves and others put in a little bit more effort and just help your neighbor and just be there for them and
work with the environment.
work with the environment.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of plants around here, but not everyone's homes have a lot of plants. Not everyone's homes can support the bee population.
Yeah, or
There's-
near like cropping farms or grocery
Woodstock
stores.
is a really big farming community and they don't have the support that they need to continue farming for our people and for our animals.
All right, well, thank you for answering my questions today, Tasha.
You're welcome very much.
Okay, you can see some similarities between the two interviews from the United States. Concern about food, concern about bees, and a lot of concern about anxiety about the future. So let's play one now from Nigeria and then play another one.
Hello. Yeah, good evening. Yeah, could you please introduce yourself and where you live?
My name is Mimi. I'm number 17. Up outside the private house.
Thank you. Could you talk about the changes you have noticed in your local environment over time, over the past few years? What did you observe? And what are the examples of those things you observe, like in terms of changing weather, temperature, season, and so on?
The temperature is something else. I've noticed that daily there are rapid increase in the temperature in my environment consistently. Like the weather condition is very, very hot and it's becoming very hot and very, very hot. Also, we've also noticed increase in the rapid degradation of soil, that's erosion. I've noticed that the erosion is digging deep and it's pouring more in this part of the environment.
Yeah, thank you so much. What about your season, the seasons in your environment? In this, what do you observe in your seasons? And how many types of seasons do you have? And what are the changes, the slight changes or sudden changes you have observed over time?
Dry season. I think the rains have increased in Calabasas size in the past 5 years has been rapidly in the amount of rainfall we have and the sun too. That's the dry season. During the dry season, it's always dry. The sun is scorching. Lots of scorching sun, sufficient amount.
Thank you so much, Mr. Medio. Please, I want to also ask you, in terms of changes in plants and animals, what do you observe? What are the plants that you have been seeing and now there are no more, or the new one coming up? The primary have gone, secondary changes has taken over in plants, ecology, and also in animal. What are the changes you have observed for the past 2 years?
country, communities are living. Plant a crop yield still intact, to the best of my knowledge. I think I've not noticed any plant or animal that has gone extinct that was available in this part for their total effect. Everything still.
Okay, if you say so, culture that have been known to be an hotspot for occasions, areas, and maybe abattoir, like the slaughter. I think those things were very available before, but did you still observe them this time?
And there must be something that, like, for vultures to develop, there must be something that attracts the vulture. I agree with you that it's not that rampant, but I believe in a slaughter. If you go to a slaughter and abattoir, you definitely find a vulture. The vultures can never miss that. That one I'm sure of. So the amount, the rate has drastically reduced. That's what.
Thank you so much, so far. Also, thank you. If I must seek more clarity, what are the changes? Have you been going to the seaside, like Calabar River and some of the rivers and streams around you in this vicinity? What did you really observe in terms of the sea level rises and then the water resources? What are the things you observed?
Something is interesting. It's been quite. Can't really say that there's an increase or decrease in sea level.
Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Emedio, it has been wonderful so far for the responses you have provided for the purpose of these studies. I want to seek further your opinion to describe what are the resources you use, or how does the resources used and population size affect or contribute to environmental degradations in your vicinity, in your city?
Well, I'm going to answer that question with an example. For instance, the increase in population size, everybody needs income, everybody needs a place to stay. So how this will happen? We have less land. Because of this, people tend to erect buildings across gutters, erect buildings, blocking passage for water and a whole lot of things. So now, if there's rainfall and this water is supposed to pass a certain way, the road, the passage which that water is supposed to use is not available. The road, the water will definitely create another channel. Now, constantly creating another channel, that's washing away of the earth's surface in that particular place, and that will lead to erosion.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Do you have something like that in this your area where you stay?
Erosion is the watchword in this side. Sorry to say.
And what do you think is the cause of it, the root cause of it? Is it the people attitude of indiscriminate disposal of waste in the water channel, or the water erosion just suddenly erupt somewhere and degrade the environment?
Erosion can never just erupt somewhere. Something must propel it to happen. So indiscriminate disposal of waste is a factor. And also not properly channeled. There's no proper drainage system in this environment. Now, if there was proper drainage system, the water would have seen a proper panel to pass through. So I think it's the erosion is human facilitated.
Thank you so much. I haven't known all these causes and problems as a result of climate change and the factors that really perpetuate this. What kind of a world do you imagine to see in terms of a group of human beings, that of animals and natural environment? What kind of world do you dream to see?
Well, if a whole lot of things are put into consideration, I'm imagining the world with a more comfortable, environment, a more habitable environment. That's what each and every one of us is looking forward to. But I think we really have a role to play in think of achieving that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Medion. It has been wonderful so far, talking to you and you responding to these questions. Thank you so much. I want to conclude with this simple question to you. What did you think can be done to promote environmental sustainability in your local level? What do you think should be done? People should be done, or people should do, or you can contribute to solving or mitigating climate change impact?
I think if we want anything to change, we have to start from ourselves. So starting by creating awareness. Because a whole lot of persons are not aware of the dangers of these climate changes. They're not aware of the dangers of their actions and the contributions of this action to climate changes. So I'll say creating awareness, because ignorance first is the deadliest sickness that's disturbing our people. So you create awareness, let them know. If you do this, you get this. If you don't do this, you get this. So that's the first solution and the most important solution when you have to do with combating climate change.
Thank you so much for this, for your time, and also providing responses or answers to these few questions. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
My name is Emem Good. I live in Satellite Town, Calabar, River State. I'm going to take Calabar as a case study because I stay in Calabar. Calabar has a lot of trees. Calabar is the climate change issue has not really given a negative impact in Calabar as a whole. Though in some areas in Calabar, where I stay precisely, at Satellite Town, climate change has really got a foothold in that area because it has impacted negatively. For example, we have a river down there, but though we have a river, we don't still feel that coolness, that cool evening trails of breeze because of high-rise buildings in the area and no trees, no vegetation as a whole in the area. So it has been hot, especially in the afternoons and in the evenings. City planning, by the time when we have now we have a big forest, and by the time the population increases, they have to make way for buildings. So that's how city planning affects the environment, nature and environment, they work hand in hand. So if we do not have space for planting, by the time high-rise buildings take over everywhere, there's no more space, and the global warming comes from that. Let's use, for example, let's go to the exterior, in the outskirts of town. The outskirts of town, a small population of people are there, they don't need much automobiles to move around, they don't have industries, they don't have any of those things. So they have a small size, a group of people. So you see they live longer and you see that area is much cooler. That's why if you travel to the village, you see the village is much more cooler than the town. So now let's bring ourselves back here. In the city, people are coming from the rural areas to the urban areas every day. So this congestion itself has made room for more buildings to be built. I take my area as an example. This area used to be a vegetation. People were not living in it. The water level was all over here, it was swampy. But with the building of houses, we pushed the water back down to the river. So with time, that river would not even be there anymore because of high-rise buildings and all of those stuff.
Okay.
Then apart from that, the carbon being released by automobiles there are here. It's very, very extreme because almost everybody has a car and public transport, the same things. But in the village, it's not that way. People are using bicycles and moving around. You see, the environment and the weather there is nice. You still see dew in the village, but around here, you don't see dew anymore because of the warming, negatively and also positively. I believe maybe in the near future, the government would just sit up and bring up some renewable energy. As I said before, we've had water turbines, we have windmills, and we have the solar. So it does affecting it positively. If we have these things in the future, I believe we are going to fight global warming to an extent. A lot of things will not happen. Then negatively, if we allow all these things to come up, we don't check them, we will now discover that in the near future, the global warming will be so serious in the environment. The environment will be killed. I would like humans to come together and build a world that is green. Yes, let us give back to the planet what we took from it and make it real good again. Then as for the animals, we should let them stay in their natural habitat. Yes, number one, I should think we should invest in renewable energy. And when I mean investing in renewable energy, we talk about solar. Number two, we should switch to sustainable transportation. If we can switch to sustainable transportation and leave burning of carbon, we could use electric train, and we should protect our forests. Very important. Progress is good. We still have some forests around Utupani, Akampa, big forests, and we still have some game wildlife over there. So I think we should protect that forest. We should encourage deforestation.
Yes, those two interviews from Nigeria, you could see they also talk about a few of the same things, like the interviews we listened to from the United States, concern about the environment, about carbon emissions, about food security, and then about urban sprawl. Urban areas are expanding and expanding and expanding. So, and then posing challenges to the natural environment, including our water systems. So those are very important points. That when you are thinking of your similarities and differences, you could find a lot of those similarities and differences by just listening to those to some of these videos. So I'll play one more from Nigeria, and then we will switch back to the United States.
Student of University of Calabar, Cross River State, Nigeria. What I love most about my environment is the green nature, the trees, the wind, the cool atmosphere. But over the years, change in climate, the change in the atmosphere. I was born in Lagos, in the city, so I never really appreciated nature because in the city there are buildings, tall buildings. You hardly see the green environment. So the first time I visited my village, I discovered that the environment there, it's very different. The atmosphere very different. The environment very different. That's nature itself. So while in the village, I went to many places. I went to the forest. I went to the stream. I saw beautiful animals. Then one of the stream I visited, there was a big tree, very big tree there. So that's nature in itself. The tree serves many purposes. So I was amazed by Recently, few months back, I visited. That was in March. I visited the village. I discovered that tree has fallen off. So when I asked around, I discovered that there was rain, very heavy rainfall, and the wind came and it blew, it cut the tree off. And like this tree I'm talking about, not size, it's very huge. But the wind to have taken it down, that must have been this as a result of climate change. Now, this has threatened the village. It has changed a whole lot of environmental. So, like, I was angry at how climate change, how the environment, how humans have caused this change to happen, how the environment is changing as a result of these actions. Now, I came back to the city and I discovered that not just the village, but everything is changing, and all this is as a result of climate change. I would appreciate it if people take more action, people show more love for the environment, people show more concern for the environment, take care of the environment. You understand? Now, right now, what solutions can we prefer to help the environment keep green again? I discovered that dispose of our refuse, well, we challenge the environment because we don't have love for it. We have to create more awareness in the environment so that people will discover that the environment is part of us as we are part of the environment. I believe that with proper guidance and proper education, people can see that humans, we are the problem of the environment. We are doing more harm to the environment than good we think we are doing. We should limit what we do. We should limit the carbon we use. We should limit how we manage the environment. I believe the environment will heal. The environment will heal. And God bless us.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Dean Consini. I'm here with my mom and community member to conduct the climate change interview. So could you please introduce yourself and tell us where you live?
Hi, I'm Anita Bhattacharya Consini, and I live in Madison, Wisconsin.
So in your local environment, could you talk about the changes that you may have noticed over the past several years? For example, this could be changing weather, temperature, seasons, plants and animals, anything like that.
Yeah, so the thing I've noticed the most is the inconsistency in the seasons. I grew up mostly in Wisconsin, and I remember pretty consistent winters. And in the last, I would say 10 years, 5 to 10 years that I've been living in Madison, I've been in Madison for 20 years. I've noticed that the winters are less snowy, they're warmer, and there's less consistent snowfall. Less consistent snowfall.
Yeah, the inconsistency is definitely a big change. So looking ahead, how do you imagine that your family's or your community's future would be affected by climate change?
Yeah, good question. So I think if this continues, I am concerned that the temperatures are going to get warmer, maybe there'll be less snow, less winter in parts of the country. And while I know a lot of people don't like winter, there's good reasons to have winter. I think for one, it helps businesses who rely on winter sports, for example. That can be, not having enough snow can be a real problem for them. I think also the hard freeze that most of the northern United States has is good for plants and animals and insects. So we don't have quite as many insects, and many plants require a really hard freeze in order to reproduce and be healthy.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very delicate ecosystem. And I like how you also highlight the economic impacts as well. So how do you feel about climate change? Could you describe your emotional responses to climate change as you think about yourself, your family, and your community?
Yeah, I try not to think about it too deeply because I find it pretty saddening to think that the change that I feel like I'm already seeing changes. And I expected the climate change to be much slower. And so if I really think about it, I become pretty sad and I will say not optimistic. And yeah, so those are my emotions when I think about it. And I would also say frustrated that I hear people not taking it seriously or people not doing things that could potentially make a difference. Even if we all do a little bit, it may not help very much, but if more people did a little bit, it might help more.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that with me. So looking ahead, how do you imagine the future? What kind of world would you like to see in terms of the relationships between groups of humans in the natural world, and then also humans in the climate?
I think I would like to see, I guess, a more natural, or I would like to see a more appreciation of nature than many people have now. I think that many countries really have a very some countries have a good relationship with the natural world. I think of places where there is a lot of green space or there's a lot of untouched areas. So that could be Africa or maybe places like Australia or New Zealand. And then there are other places in large cities where, you know, people don't see green, don't see nature. And I think I would like to see a better appreciation for nature, knowing about having more people know about green spaces, more people know about nature, more people know about birds or animals, and realize that the interactions with the natural world are important, even if you don't think they are on your day-to-day basis.
Oh, absolutely. I think awareness is very key to this. Thank you for contrasting just the attitudes in different places as well. So I'll thank you for your time today. It's great to talk to you about climate change. Do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you. It's nice to be able to talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, you could see the same themes flowing through all the interviews. Everyone is talking about the same things. And then
Hello, my name is Hope Jonah. I am a graduate of Public Health, University of Calabar, currently in an exchange program with the University of DePaul University in Chicago. And I'd like to interview you on what we already discussed earlier. So can we, it's you introducing yourself. Please introduce yourself and tell us where you live.
Okay, hi Hope, I'm Miss Amachi Oji, and I live at Windsor Hostel, Cross River State, Nigeria.
Okay, Miss Yoma. Can you please tell me about some of the changes that you may have noticed in your local environment over the past couple of years? For example, changes in weather, temperature, and seasons.
Okay, I would start with the change in seasons.
Okay.
Last year, for example, we had rains falling through December, and even on Christmas, it was quite dark,
yes,
gloomy. It looked as if it was going to rain, which isn't a natural occurrence. Here in Nigeria, December is usually the Harmattan period, which is characterized by dry, sunny, and really bright weather.
Okay.
Then there's been a spike in the temperature. The days are really hot. The nights are also hot. When I came here for my first year here in Calabar, Nigeria,
okay,
it was a really temperate region. It was less hotter than the north, but the sun that shines during the day here can almost be comparable to the one at the north now.
Okay, wow. All right, so how do you think that these changes will affect your family or community in the future?
Of course, it will affect our health. Of course, it will affect our immunity. And I really believe it will affect the adaptability of pathogens, fungi, viruses. They will build their resistance, they will remodel and always I feel they'll strengthen their walls in such a way that they're able to attack us.
Okay.
I also have this foreboding feeling concerning how much heat we can be able to take as a family and as humans.
All right, so finally, how do you imagine the future? What kind of world would you like to see in terms of relationship between different groups of humans, between humans and the natural world, and between humans and the climate?
Okay, I imagine a future where we treat the weather, we treat the climate, we treat the environment more respectfully. We dispose trash as it should be. There are no radioactive substances dumped into oceans. There are no indiscriminate burnings. And I feel there should be sustainable solutions to gas flaring.
Wow, thank you so much, Mesioma, for your time. This has been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's play a few more.
Hello, my name is Chris. I am in group 1.
Hello, my name is Tariq and I live in Chicago.
Could you talk about the changes you noticed in your local environment over the past years?
I would say I have noticed a lot of differences in the environment. There has been a lot of rising temperatures and the weather has been very unpredictable. There has been a lot
what do you mean by rising temperatures? Do you mean it's been super hot when it's not supposed to be hot, or warmer than usual?
Yeah, sometimes in the winter, the temperatures are way higher than it's supposed to be. And for example, in the summer, sometimes it could begin very later in the year and the temperatures are not as hot as usual sometimes. So the weather has been very unpredictable.
Mm-hmm. So how do you imagine yours or your family's or your community's future will be affected by climate change?
I would say the later generations would be affected by the rising temperatures and the rising water levels. For example, a lot of seas and beaches will be affected by this because the water levels would rise. Thus, people won't be able to use these places anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, in addition, this will have a lot of impact on the participation in the plants, which also affects our ecosystem. This would make a lot of food and
would mess up the biodiversity too if the sea levels rise.
a lot of products and a lot of things that we use every day are going to be unavailable, which would create more chaos for the communities.
Yeah. So how do you personally feel about climate change in the sense, kind of an emotional aspect of it?
I think I've been hearing about climate change since I was little and as little as a kid. And I would say a lot of people are not realizing the real negative effects on society and humans. And the reason for that is because people don't see it in their eyes and in real life. But
there's a certain political party that doesn't believe climate change is real. And there's a lot of people behind that movement, but it's crazy to me because we have a lot of science to prove that's actually happening. So I think that's kind of interesting. So how do you think climate change, or what is your emotional response to climate change, and how will it impact your family since they're abroad?
I think if we're able to find the right procedures and ways to fight the negative effects that we produce and harm the climate, I would be engaged in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe a lot of agencies and organizations are trying to help in the situation, but no one is actually providing them with the necessary support.
So the last question is, how do you imagine the future And what kind of world would you like to see? Like, what's your ideal situation between humans and nature and humans versus like the climate?
I think an ideal situation would be when humans would take the situation more seriously and would connect with nature more often. For example, finding solutions and ways to reduce the harm, such as the carbon and the harmful gases and products that we leave in the water, for example,
Like
and in the
oil
environment.
spills?
Yeah. I would say if in the future that could really impact our daily lives, and I don't think we were able to live the same way we are living right now. For example, the rain will be impacted because that could be very acidic, which would kill the plants and would really harm the humans.
Mhm.
Hello, my name is Mosa Teresa. I am really interested in protecting our environment, and I believe that there has been a lot of changes in the environment due to climate change. We no longer see the weather being as it used to be. People have complained bitterly about how scorching the sun has become over time. We no longer have the usual rains that my community used to be known for. I live in Calabar, precisely Calabar South, and Nigeria, and we have really experienced the setbacks and the effects of climate change. We've suffered issues of floods, people have been displaced, houses and properties have been destroyed. And I know that if nothing is being done, this will continue to deteriorate over time. We really need to step up and take the action that needs to be done to have a better community and then curb the harsh effects we're already experiencing at the time. I really feel bad because people are almost very vulnerable. People do not even have an understanding of the actions that they need to take. People just wait until it happens to them. So everybody's just waiting who next to be the victim of the harsh effects of climate change. And we really hope that everybody puts their hands on deck so we have solutions to this problem. I imagine if people get to understand our place as humans and understand the importance of studying the environment. We do not have to interfere with the natural construction of houses. We exist and then we will exist and then have happy.
There's something playing. Please mute if you are not speaking, if your video is not playing. In fact, everyone should just mute your system as we continue to listen to the interviews.
Hi, my name is Shariah, and I'm here interviewing my sister about climate change. Can you start off by introducing yourself and telling us about your environment?
Hi, my name is Jamia. I stay on the east side of Chicago, and the environment here it's not too bad. We really only have issues with littering, and yeah, but for the most part, people go out to help clean and make sure that they're getting up the trash or whatever, especially with the beach clean, so.
Okay, how do you think that climate change has impacted your neighborhood over the years?
I think it definitely had a negative impact on it. With the weather fluctuating, like 80 one day, the next day 50 degrees, raining, and cold outside, windy. So it definitely took a toll on it in a negative way. And, what else? Oh, a lot of the trees has been, getting cut down and replaced, with buildings and more gas, fuel things are being used, so definitely had a negative impact.
Okay, so you talked about the things that were happening to negatively impact climate change. Do you think that there's anything that can positively impact climate change in your neighborhood?
Yeah, just everybody, it'll have to take everyone though, not just like a few people, but you know, going out to put plants, continue to clean the beaches and clean the neighborhood, like the streets or the sidewalks, and you know, actually just take time to put in work to make a change. But I don't think it can happen if it's not everyone, it can't happen, and also if it's not a constant thing.
How do you feel like the future will look? How do you think the future will look based on the way climate change is going now?
Honestly, not good, because everything is just changing so fast, and if we don't act sooner, then you know, it's just not gonna be good for anybody.
What things do you think you could personally do to help with climate change?
Making sure that I, you know, throw my trash away, do reuse, reduce, recycle. That I think that really does help. And also just trying to use less gas, fuels, and yeah, I think that's the most I can do, because I don't know how to garden or anything, so that would be the best.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me interview you.
You're welcome.
So you could see the threads are running through almost all the interviews. Cutting down trees to make room for human expansion. So these are these things are not only happening here in the United States, where the suburbs are perpetually being expanded. So they're happening all over the world, where the natural habitats for animals and then for all types of lives are being mowed down and destroyed to make room for human comfort. And then when these things happen, we jeopardize the environment, and we make the climate challenge worse for everyone.
Okay, yeah, my name is Basi Edwards. It's to the program, the GEL, a global learning experience, a collaboration between University of Canada and DePaul University, United States of America. Please, I want to get some basic information from you in regards to my project work and research work. I want to tell you that you already signed the form. Is just all what you think to say is going to be confidential, and it's just going to be used for academic work alone. So please, you have the right to sue me, the University of Colorado and before Chicago University, even if you find this video outside academic work. So please, thank you, please, amen. Thank you so much. Yes, climate change. Over 10 years ago, and we have always been addressing the problem, the impact of climate change in our economic activity, in our environment and so on. So I want you to just give me a brief understanding of what a brief insight of what you understand by climate change. Right. Climate change is like the storm that we, like when we went off our children, we something is not new to us. Climate has been all time used to the vision of man and man survive, trying to spread to stop them. We really affected the climate, and it's something that is going on has been something we've been seeing in the movies, watching in here, all of that. So unfortunately, the climate has really changed with time. Most of the time I'll give an update when the president, governor of the country, visited to see the government. They have the opportunity to cut down the timber. This because they have the power, they wanted to do what they want. So it affected the climate change of Calabar and the weather became so hot and high. So many persons were complaining of the level of the sun when they are seeing around that time. I'm not saying there's some great funding and what I can tell. If you go to an urban school like this in Calabar, there's some exam. Now when you travel and see the carbon dioxide that is being sent to the atmosphere, it's really detrimental to human health. For we, being human, trying to adapt as Nigerian and being activists, we try to adapt and explore because when you go to the hospital, different kinds of disease and inborn because of the cause of climate change. So the climate change has really affected human life from time frame to days. So I don't know, and I will just tell you of the effect that really comes for human, like the first skin cancer, like what we call so many skin burns for pregnant ladies, and the first miscarriage and all of that. Some of the climate change, wildfire also take place, all of that. Look at the three things that I can tell, and the atmosphere, what we're breathing. Human breathing health are not too good because we don't even engage on planting, we don't engage on the green economy. So trees are not even around human environment. We can exchange and really change out the carbon dioxide and that. So that's the major problem to health. So I don't know if the government are going to see how it can resolve it. Thank you. Thank you so much for the insight about the climate change and the definitions and the really good part of it. Please, I want you to specifically identify some of the major impacts you have felt in the environment, specifically where you discuss that you're doing.
Yeah, that video is very long. It's over 20 minutes. So I encourage everyone to go back to it and then listen some more because there are important points that are being made by the person being interviewed. Again, I heard cutting down of trees, which is something that unfortunately is happening a lot around that Calabar area. When we were there last year, July, and we went back in January this year. So you could see that the rainforest is being decimated by people who are operating illegal timber business. They're cutting down these trees and shipping them to China, shipping them to different places. So that's why people keep talking about cutting down of trees because this is happening a lot over there. And it's a big threat to the local environment there as well as the global environment. So before we play another one, does anyone have a question? Okay, so let's play another one.
Hi class, I'm Miranda, and today I'm doing my climate interview. So could you please introduce yourself, Myra, and tell us where you live?
I'm Myra Shuja. I'm a graduate student at DePaul. Right now I'm living in Chicago, but most of my life I've spent in Karachi, Pakistan. That's the country. It's in the Asian subcontinent.
Thanks for introducing yourself. So could you talk about some of the changes that you've noticed in the environment in Pakistan throughout your life there?
So I remember growing up, since it's a very tropical region, we have a lot of rainfall. But as I grew up, we witnessed a lot of heat waves, and then we witnessed floods, and the intensity of the floods started getting stronger. And just the same year that I was coming to US, 2020, is when one of the biggest floods hit Pakistan. So I've seen climate change happening in my country without actually recognizing that that's one of the major reasons, apart from the country not being able to handle the natural disaster.
And how does that compare to your experience with the United States and the environment here so far?
I mean, even summers, I have not seen like a heat wave here. I feel like my body can handle more because of that. And flooding there is worse because all the basements got filled, and I can see some kind of drainage system here on the roads, but you cannot observe those little potholes there. So I can constantly analyze what Pakistan does not have in terms of infrastructure, and experiencing rainfall here and there is just big. It's different because of that.
And because of these environmental issues, how do you imagine your family or your community's future will continue to be affected by climate change?
I mean, there's a lot of economic loss, but because of the stagnant water, there are a lot of waterborne diseases. The educational system just breaks down because we cannot go to schools, universities, so everything is put on hold. And it takes a lot of time to recover from one event. It takes like a year, and then we're hit by another season of monsoon. So it is a very tough situation to be in, but I'm still hopeful because I know people who want to work on addressing climate issues. I know female architects who are building houses in the rural areas that will cater to the coming floods. So there's hope and there's stress at the same time because I know my family's there too.
So you already touched on this a little bit with that hope and the stress that you're feeling, but do you have any other emotions that you'd like to talk about, your feelings with climate change, or a time that you remember feeling particularly emotional?
A lot of times in my classes, we talk about having a climate anxiety check-in. And I remember my first few check-ins were me saying that I can't wait to make a difference. I can't wait to go in the market and do something tangible. But a lot of other times, I just wished I was ignorant and I could just live my life without caring about a lot of things because it's a burden at the end of the day. So there are mixed emotions, and you can literally see me tearing up. But it's just the fear that humans have a great impact on other creatures, on animals. And we should all work towards this cause united, not think about the borders, not think about animals do not deserve a better life or we shouldn't care about them. So I guess all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying and I agree with you. So on that note as well, how do you imagine the future? What kind of world do you want to see in terms of uniting humans to the natural world or to caring about the climate? What's that vision like?
I feel like one of the major things that need to be done is thinking about the world as a system rather than divided units and just catering to our own needs. Because I've realized that we go in a positive direction in one area, but it affects negatively to the other area. So my vision would be like a systematic change on a bigger level where we have policies that look at this issue holistically instead of looking at it dividedly within states, within countries. And then hoping, like we have a leader, for example, Singapore had a leader very early in their timeline who was passionate about it, and he made policies early on which are still helping them to be a sustainable city. So maybe we need a leader for the country who is so passionate about it that he's willing to make huge changes.
All right, thank you so much for talking to me today. Yeah, have a great day. Thank you.
Professor, before you play the next video, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So my group, we have our like final presentation done. I shared the slideshow with you because it's a Google Doc, but when I go to like save it as a PowerPoint or as a document, the videos that we clipped in there don't play.
Okay.
And they were like inserted properly. So I don't know what you want me to do. Like, will you just go through the Google slides that we shared with you instead of the submission box? Will you remember that?
You probably could just, is that for Wednesday or the final exam?
What?
Is that for Wednesday? Are you going to present on Wednesday? Yeah, okay. So,
I thought we were just submitting them.
so why not, we can call DePaul Technology Service.
I don't have time for that. I have the final today and then tomorrow and then I have work.
Okay, just present what
can't
you
call
have. Just present what you have on Wednesday. And then for the final exam, just do the best you can. I see the communication here on my phone. If you have already developed something, you finished the work within your group, I will not encourage you to redo it. Just submit what you have, okay? Eve, are you there?
Yeah,
Okay, just submit what you already developed, okay? Don't redo it.
I think I'm in Eve's group. Like our final presentation, it has like videos inserted in it. And I think we just want to make sure that, because when it submits, it's not showing those videos. So if we submit it and you go to evaluate it, you might have to
just send it. Send it in. If it doesn't play, then we will figure out a way to make it play.
Okay.
Just turn it in, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Please, my name is Basi Edes. I'm here to interview you in regards to my academic assignment on GLE, Global Learning Experience, in collaboration between the DePaul University, Chicago, and that of University of Calabar. So please, I need your response in regards to these basic questions as climate change is affecting our socio-economic, environmental, and social life. So please, may I know your name? All right, thank you, Mr. Charles. Please, from more than 10 years ago, we have been hearing about climate change, and we know that it's changing every day, keep on changing. What we used to see, we are not seeing them. What we never saw, we are not seeing them. So those are some of the basic impacts of climate change. Bears, it affects bears, humans, forests, and all that. What is your basic experience in regards to this climate change?
Well, what I experienced in climate change is actually what we normally see, not what we're seeing in things are changing. Things are going higher. But for us,
Okay. In this place, this vicinity, this area that I'm meeting you, what are the things that you have seen that is changing so easily, and what are some of the things you feel either in your health that you're not comfortable with?
actually, the environment, the gutter, air pollution, not helping, trying to eat well as white people. The economy is so high that we have to be before people. Even say if we are on to take this, everything is so high.
Okay, I've seen your your road has been chopped off so deep. That is environmental degradation. What did you think is the cause of this? Because I can see this is the main road, the cutter, and I think this is the dustbin, if I'm not mistaken. And everything has been chopped off so deep, so mightily deep. I can say almost all the road has been chopped off as a result of climate change. Mr. Charles, I'm still coming back to you because I need to pick some of these things I'm saying, because I'm so surprised the way this place has been chopped off and nobody can even pass again. I suggest something caused it. And Mr. Charles, I'm coming back to you again. I haven't videoed those things that I'm seeing at the erosion area. What did you think is the real cause of that?
Actually, it's something like that, but the community people have been trying their best or they're trying their best to maintain the road, but government are not helping. So we've been acting with including the government in that system. They are not helping, so the community people are just tired of maintaining the road or the
Okay. That's a result of climate change. Every downpour, the rain has been falling vehemently every day, and the way that road that was tableland is now a very big, mighty erosion area that have chopped off almost all the road. That is as a result of climate change over time. Because for 10, 20 years ago, that place wasn't like that. But now the impact of climate change have really affected this area. So, Mr. Charles, thank you for that response. And then back to you again. At night, how do you feel about the impact of this climate change in regards to your room? How do you feel the weather? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it mild? Are you comfortable with both in the rainy season and dry season?
Can you hear me?
How is it changing? How does it impact in your health? How do you feel?
So I encourage everyone to, that video is also very long. So try and watch it. It's not very clear what, it's not very audible what that person is saying. But still, regardless, if you pay attention, you can get very good point from what he's saying. So I encourage everyone to try and watch that video, and then maybe get some points that you can use to develop your similarities and differences. So let's play. We have like 15 minutes left. I'll play one more, and then we can use the rest of the time for questions.
Hello, class. Hello, professor. Today I have.
My name is Jack.
And Jack, where are you from and where do you stay?
I am from Houston, Texas originally, but I now live in the Wrigleyville neighborhood of Chicago.
It's a big change from Houston to Chicago.
That is, most definitely.
Have you noticed any differences in terms of climate between the two cities?
Yeah, of course. So, you know, Houston, you get about warm weather probably 9 months out of the year. And then
Not so much here.
Not at all, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like 4, 5 months out of the year here. And warm being, you know, I'd say like 75 and above.
Okay.
For kind of a rain. No, actually, in Houston, it's very swampy.
Oh,
so
swampy.
It's super humid
Right.
because we're about I'd say an hour 30 from the ocean,
Right. Okay.
and it's very low sea level in terms of elevation. I believe elevation wise, Chicago is anywhere from like 600 to 800. Houston, you're below 50 feet sea level everywhere.
Right.
So quite
Yeah,
swampy. in
yeah,
that regard.
it's a lot of big changes. Can you talk about the changes you noticed while living in Chicago in terms of climate change or the seasons, the weather?
Yeah, of course. So it seems like the winter every time gets further into the year and maybe lesser back on the front side. So what I mean is the winter starts more so, you know, at first it started. I remember one day, sophomore year, 2019, it snowed on Halloween, right? We had ice and snow on Halloween. However, the past year on Halloween, people were wearing t-shirts and light jackets.
Yeah, it was
Right,
very
so the winter's almost getting pushed back, extending further. You know, we didn't get warm weather consistently in Chicago until the middle of May.
Yeah,
Right,
even now.
even now, a little
It's still
chilly,
yeah.
a little chilly, so that's definitely one thing. But my first year at DePaul was the polar vortex,
Right.
which I
right.
mean, climate change in general, that was, you know, one of the coldest it's been in 100 years. The city of Chicago at one point was colder than Siberia,
It was
Russia.
crazy.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
so.
really crazy. What about in Houston? Have you been keeping up with their
Yeah.
climate?
Well, so Houston-
They just had like a
freeze. So Houston has experienced kind of the converse of the relationship there, where for about a week and a half in Houston, it hit below 20 degrees for like the first time in God knows how long, right?
That's crazy.
So changes on both levels, but it's funny how, you know, northern, you got the opposite with, you know, I guess what the warmer weather lasting longer, and then Houston, colder weather coming in kind of an intense way. So.
Yeah, that was super crazy.
Mhm.
How do you imagine you and your family's community will be affected if we keep going at this pace in terms of the changing climates, especially in places where it's not necessarily cold or warm? How do you think it's gonna affect your future and your families? Because I'm sure it's gonna be two different realities that you live in.
Yeah,
depending
well,
on-
I mean, people are gonna have to adapt. I'll tell you, in Houston, the infrastructure is not built for cold weather. So about 2/3 of the homes in my neighborhood experience power outages and burst pipes. 2/3, that's thousands of people without power for a couple days, right? So houses, the governments are gonna need to have salt trucks on hand and things like that. So there's gonna need to be an acceptance because people want to act like it's an anomaly. Just happened one time last year. It wasn't as intense this year, sure, but it's gonna happen again. And cities, not only families, but those governments are gonna need to be prepared.
Yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
It definitely needs to start like planning for the
Yeah.
worst at this point.
Yeah.
Because one thing about climate or weather is like it's foreseeable up until a certain point.
Mhm.
Like it's always consistently changing and it's never constantly like a constant like spring, summer, fall, it's gonna be this type of weather, this type of weather. So definitely having backup plans. And how do you feel about climate change in general? Is that something that worries you?
It does. Freaks me out because I feel like nobody truly knows, even though, I've seen these videos of these guys who were like protesting a couple of years back. Scientists who were like all of a sudden like fired and silenced by the government. I mean, if I'm getting that correctly, but what freaks me out is I feel like nobody, us average citizens, I can think this or you can think that. Nobody truly knows what is actually the magnitude of what's going on and where it's going to go. People talk about melting ice caps and rising oceans, and like if that can happen year over year, sure, we can acknowledge those statistics, but still you can't get a full grasp of really what's going on just being an average Joe in this world. So it freaks me out in that regard that what is or isn't going to happen is just unknown.
Right. And then how do you imagine the future? Like, how would you like to see people start to get more awareness on this topic or the relationship with the environment or eco footprint? Like,
well, I think those people with not just celebrities, but brands who have the biggest reach and the biggest stretch are going to have to take a stand per se, or do some sort of campaign of some sort, right? I mean, think of the biggest brands, Amazon, Apple, something carbon neutral, or just, I don't know, people who have the largest voice. That's what it's going to take for those other companies or individuals to speak up.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you so much for talking to me today.
You're welcome.
And thank you for sharing
Pleasure.
with the rest of my class.
Of course.
Okay, so that does it for us today. Those were all great interviews. Then these are wonderful records that we have of testimony. The testimonies from Nigeria and from the United States about the threat that climate change is posing to everyone, to our environment, to our way of life, to everything that we are used to. So I see that Emanuela has the question. Emanuela, can you go ahead, please?
Okay, good evening. So I had to make my view because that while interview, I was interview the person interviewing and the interviewee video. I could from person to interview
Yeah, Emanuela, it's not very clear. It's not very clear. Your system is a little bit unstable, so I couldn't even make out what you were saying. Can you try again? Let's see whether that will work again. Can you try again?
Okay. right now. The interviewing so and then I don't know.
Emanuela, unfortunately, we still cannot make out what you are saying because of the system. Can you send a text through your group to me? Right through your group, and then ask that question through your group, and then I will try to answer it as soon as possible. So sorry that the system does not allow us to hear, but send the question through your group. So we will meet again, everyone. We will meet again on Wednesday, the same time. And then on Wednesday, we will have very short narratives or presentations, whatever form we want to share what you have with us. So we'll have 3 minutes per group, 6 groups from Nigeria and 6 groups from the United States. So that's what we are going to do on Wednesday. So I'll call on group 1 from Chicago, and then someone will speak up for group 1. And then group 1 for Nigeria, and then someone will speak up for group 1 from Nigeria, so that you will talk about some of those similarities and differences in these wonderful videos. So I want to take this moment to thank all of you for the work you have done. You are not only fulfilling the requirements for this class, but by doing this work, you are contributing to solving the challenge of climate change. Because we are going to share what you have here on YouTube, and then some people will watch the interviews and then watch your interaction with the people you interviewed, and then they would come away with the same impression I have now, that this is a serious problem that we have in the world. And then because of the work you have done, we are going to, minds might be changed, and some people might begin to do things differently, and then reconsider the way they live their lives and the way they interact with the environment. So I look forward to meeting with everyone again next week. No, on Wednesday, not next week. On Wednesday, same time, and then so that we can bring this to a very happy ending. It has been a great pleasure to work with you this a few weeks, and then I look forward to bringing this to a close with everyone on Wednesday. If you have any questions, please send them to me via email for the Pulse students, or for everyone.
Sir, we have been emailing you and you haven't been responding to any of our emails.
So I'll have to look at that and see. But you can also send questions through the WhatsApp groups. And then if you want to email me, don't email me on weekends, because on weekends these days I have I'm not very much available on weekends. So, but I look forward to going through the class, going over what we have done, and then including the emails, and then past assignments to make sure that everyone is up to date. So expect to hear from me if you are missing something. Then I will invite you to complete these any activities you are missing. I know that some people were missing some of the quizzes, I'm not sure that the quizzes have end dates. You could still go in and then complete the quizzes. They do not have end dates. They are still open. So if you missed any quiz, go in, complete the quiz, and then if you missed anything, then let me know what you missed, and then we will take it from there. So I look forward to seeing.
Professor?
Yes.
Emanuela has her question in the chat if you want to look at that.
Okay. Can you read that question to me?
Yeah, it's kind of long. It's just about deforestation. So she says, we all know that one of the major causes of climate change is deforestation. And here in Calabar, we faced that a lot as trees are continuously cut down and little or no effort is made to replant. I want to know if the United States faces the same challenges, and does cutting down trees legally make it right? In Calabar here, there's a lot of illegal cutting down of trees. So does cutting down of trees make it right?
Well, like I said, I noticed the problem in Calabar when we went we went in July of last year, and then we went back in January. The trees there was a rubber plantation that was huge, a big rubber plantation. It was something that I always saw when I drove through that road to Calabar, but that has almost disappeared. So here in the United States, people are planting trees, and some trees are being cut down also by real estate developers, those who are building new homes, those who are expanding into the suburbs to provide new housing for people who no longer want to live in cities. But in the United States, it is illegal to just go in and bulldoze thousands of trees. That is not allowed. If you do that, you are likely going to be arrested and prosecuted by the government. So that is not allowed. So, and then if you did not plant that tree, if the city planted the tree, you cannot cut down that tree in the United States. If you planted a tree in your backyard, maybe you can cut it down, but you cannot cut down a tree you did not plant. But companies who are building new houses have, they buy lands, large expanse of land, and then they cut down all the trees on the land, and then they build these homes. So people are being encouraged, strongly encouraged, because everybody's seeing what is happening with climate change. So people are being encouraged to plant more trees, to make up for any destruction that has been done by the real estate industry in this country. So it is not a good thing to cut down trees, whether it is in Nigeria or here in the United States. And then we should do what we can as you are now together, maybe as you graduate from this program, whatever program you are doing at the University of Calabar or at DePaul University, maybe you get into the workforce, and maybe sometime in the future, you gain some power and some access to means of confronting these challenges. Maybe you are in government or work in some office that has influence over the environment. So it is going to be important that you take an active role to protect the trees and protect the environment, knowing fully well that many of those who are destroying the environment, many of them have no idea what they are doing. They just want the money But some of them know what they are doing, but they also just want the money. So it is up to us who understand that this is not right, who care about the environment, to do what we can to advocate and then to use every legal means available to us to fight this problem, to make sure that we bring the change that is needed so that the environment, our world, can begin to recover from the damage that has been done by humans. So, so we will meet again. If we don't have any other questions, we will meet again on Wednesday. And then the Paul students, try your best to answer the 7 questions and post them, like I said, either as a Word document or as a PowerPoint presentation. You can narrate using Zoom, or you can just write a Word document, or you can write just a PowerPoint without any narration, and then just submit to D2L, the folder in D2L submissions. And then from the University of Calabar, please, I would like to have the names of those who participated in the program, maybe on Thursday. Send the list to me on Thursday to make sure that everyone continues to participate through Wednesday so that we can get the certificates together as soon as possible. If Ms. Okang is on this call, please, Ms. Okang, can you please stay back? And then Dr. Offiong, if you are here, please stay back. For the rest, have a nice day, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good day.
You too.
You can take off the screen share.
Okay, yeah, that's true. You know, it's going to record this because I don't know if I end.
It's showing recording.
Yeah, it's still recording. If I end, then it's going to it would mean that we have to log back in.
You can end the recording though, I think.
Okay, maybe I can just stop it.